Hey, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Joni Ogg, and on behalf of TravelProfessionalNews.com, HomeBasedTravelAgent.com, and FindAHostTravelAgency.com, I'd like to welcome all of you to today's webinar, and I thank you for taking the time out of your day to join us. Now, today's topic is Interviewing a Host Agency, a guide for aspiring travel advisors. And I'm super excited today to welcome Uniglobe Travel Center to the virtual stage. Our speaker today is April Suarez. After an 18-year career in healthcare, wow, that's amazing, April, and she sought a change. And even before joining Uniglobe and starting her own agency in 2017, because she always found time for travel, both domestically and internationally, and enjoyed crafting detailed custom itineraries for herself, friends, and family. In February of 2022, she became the Director of Marketing and Sales at Uniglobe Travel Center. Now, April's honest and helpful sales approach makes her excellent at guiding new advisors to the right host agency and ensuring that their satisfaction. In her downtime, she loves exploring new places with her daughters, Morgan and Julia, and they enjoyed trying new foods, learning about different cultures, and discovering new destinations. So just remember that you are all muted, but we do, of course, welcome your questions at any time. You can just type those in the question area that you see on the right-hand side of your screen. And then we'll get to those questions at the end of her presentation. So as many questions as we can answer at that time, we'll get to. We are also today going to be awarding one lucky attendee with a $50 Amazon gift card on behalf of Travel Professional News and HomeBasedTravelAgent.com and FindAHostTravelAgency.com. So pay close attention to our speaker for cues today. I'm going to turn the microphone over to April so we can get started. Welcome, April.
Hi, Joni. Thank you for having me. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you great.
Okay, perfect. I have very tall ceilings in this room. I want to make sure there's not too much of an echo. So thank you so much for the warm welcome. And I really appreciate everybody spending time to listen to this presentation. And hopefully we'll learn a thing or two from each other because I'm looking forward to hearing everybody's questions at the end. So today I'm going to be talking about interviewing a host agency so that you can really get a better understanding of how to choose the right host agency fit. I get the question a lot because I talk to prospective advisors all the time, and they always ask me, or often ask me, which is the best one? Which is the best host agency? And of course, they all expect me to say Uniglobe because that's where I am. But I don't believe that Uniglobe is the best. I think we're excellent, but we have a lot of excellent host agencies out there, and you should know what your options are. So that's what this is all about. Now, what we're going to talk about today are things that you should do, not necessarily in this exact order, but I think that this makes sense for most people. Whenever you're looking at your options, there's certain things that you need to do first, such as defining your goals, choosing your ideal client avatar, choosing a niche, which we'll talk a little bit about more. Taking your time to look over the information carefully. Where do you find the reliable resources? And then once your research is done, how do you trust your instincts? You should trust your gut. You should feel confident about the host agency choice that you make, because whenever you're choosing a host agency, you're choosing a business partner. I think there's a lot of misconceptions about what host agencies are. And so I put together this next slide to help you understand who host agencies are and what we do. So if this is a little bit redundant for some people, I apologize, but I thought it was important to point out. A host agency is simply a middleman between the advisors and the suppliers. And advisors should have the autonomy to operate their businesses the way they want to, while leveraging the host agency resources. Now, I want to be careful in saying the way you want to. Of course, you can choose your path, but you have to do everything according to the letter of the law, of course. And then, hosts provide the access to things like marketing support and technology and educational opportunities and commissions. And in return, the independent advisors pay the host agencies through fees and or commission splits. So it's pretty basic. Every host agency serves the same purpose, but we all do it our own way. And that's why it's important for you to spend some time interviewing host agencies so that you have the opportunity to really understand what your options are, that you can ask your questions, and then you can make that confident, informed decision. So, I guess there's different schools of thought when it comes to who you're talking to, or should you talk to multiple host agencies. I am in the firm camp of you should speak to at least 3 different host agencies before choosing one. And whenever you talk to a host agency, I also firmly believe that you should be able to get a human being on the phone. You should be able to ask your questions, and you should feel at ease with the answers that you get. It doesn't, if a host agency gives you an answer that doesn't jive with maybe your business values or something else, it doesn't mean that somebody's right or wrong. It just means that it's not a good fit or it's not right for you. And so that's why it's important for you to really spend a little extra time in the beginning to make sure that you're getting your questions answered. And Joni, I don't know if you recognize here that I've used your website as an actual starting point for people. I think
I did. I was going to thank you at the end. Thank you. That's so
yes,
awesome. I did
a
notice.
fabulous resource. I think everybody should take a
Yay.
look at it. So, all
Thank
right.
you.
So you're welcome. So the first thing you really should be doing before you start calling up host agencies on the phone is assessing what your business needs are. You're the only person that can determine what you want your business to look like. So what's important to you? What what are your goals? What is it that you want your business to be? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you want to be that entrepreneur? Or are you just what we call a casual enthusiast, which I think is a much nicer term than side gig or hobby? Because I think we're all professional, but you want to make sure that you're really defining what it is you want your business to be, because I don't think that everybody should be a business owner. You might want to simply do this on the side for fun, and there's nothing wrong with that. But that role might be better suited by working as a sub agent or even an employee for an existing agency versus you starting over and building something from the ground up. Do you want to work independently? Do you want to be a solopreneur? Do you want to lead a team of people? Do you want your business to be part-time or full-time? Identifying your niche, I know that kind of makes it hard for some people because they feel like they should try some things before they actually determine what it is exactly they want to do. But one of the things that we recommend when we have, especially new to industry folks coming on board, is that if you at least pick one thing to start off with, getting started won't be so overwhelming for you. Get really, really clear on the ideal client that you're hoping to be able to serve, and then what type of travel, whether that's just land or maybe just Europe or maybe just cruise or maybe just river cruising. It can be what you want, but figuring out a lane to start in will make the process of getting your business off the ground a lot less intimidating. You need to prioritize the opportunities that are in front of you. Host agencies offer a lot of different things, and some things, I'll use a lead generation program, or offers of leads. That might be important to you, but it might not be, So these are things that you have to think about what's important now and try and prioritize the things that you really believe will help your business grow. And then obviously weighing your options very carefully. Lots of choices when it comes to different host agencies, and you really have to feel good about the one that you ultimately choose to work with. with, not for. I'm going to keep going over that over and over again. Host agencies are not your boss. All right, so where are the places that you can go to find reputable information? Obviously, find a host travel agency, and Travel Professional News do a wonderful job of making sure they're providing accurate, well-researched, unbiased information, just the facts, which is great. Another place that I send people to all the time is PATH, which stands for the Professional Association of Travel Hosts. And PATH is one of those things that exists in order to, it's an organization that was essentially formed to keep the original intent of the host agency business model intact. And we'll talk about the host agency business model so you kind of understand a little bit about, what's a host versus a host only versus a hybrid versus there's a lot of different things. Host Agency Reviews, which is a website that's similar to Find a Host Travel. They also provide industry resources, Travel Pulse, and of course, ASTA, the American Society of Travel Advisors. So whenever you go to these websites, you can count on the fact that they're presenting you with accurate information, okay? Now, when you're comparing the host agency partners that you're talking to, I'm a little bit of a spreadsheet nerd, to be honest. I think that if you're not keeping tight notes about what amenities are offered and what your cost of doing business is going to be with them, if you're not keeping tight notes on these things, it's going to be really hard for you to compare and contrast them later on. So be sure that you're writing this stuff down and that you can go back and look over everything once you've done your final host agency interview over the phone or over Zoom, and that you're able to collectively look at all of the data from the big picture overview, okay? Now, one of the biggest things, I would say, one of the biggest mistakes that people make when they choose a host agency is they don't understand or they don't take time to really map out the financial considerations. They might look at the host agency's website and they might look at maybe some of the educational opportunities that are provided, but because they haven't spent a lot of time really mapping out their actual business goals, they haven't really put together any sort of a financial roadmap. Your cost of doing business with a host agency, there's a very broad range of fees that you're going to find. Some host agencies charge nothing, and some host agencies charge thousands of dollars. And neither situation is right or wrong, they're just different. Each of those host agencies are looking for a very specific type of business owner. And so if you've taken the time on the front end to really map out your goals and determine the things that I mentioned before, part-time or full-time, business owner or employee, hobby or, entrepreneur, whenever you've taken the time to map those things out, then it's easier for you to determine what cost of doing business you're comfortable with. It has to be realistic because most of us are moving from one industry to another. We're leaving one career and we're starting a new one. I certainly started off that way. Joni mentioned that I was in healthcare for 18 years. And thankfully, I, was able to leave healthcare long before COVID because that would have been terrible. But, when I did make that move, I wanted to come into travel because it was something that I was very passionate about. And if I wasn't running my business with some level of consideration and planning, very quickly it could have become a big disaster. It could have become something that I wasn't enjoying, wasn't fulfilling, and then I would have found myself burnout and over it, just like I was with healthcare. Because when I left healthcare, I was extremely burnt out. So you have to look at all the things that the host agency could possibly charge for. Monthly fees, annual fees, transaction fees. What are your commission splits going to look like? What is the cost of doing business? Are there fees if your clients cancel, or, these are things that could add up. What is your return on your investment? I mean, and you have to decide what that value looks like. What is your time going to look like? Are you going to have to be working around the clock in order to turn any sort of reasonable profit for yourself? Or are you going to be, working nights and weekends? And you just have to decide what that time invested is. So always look at what your financial considerations are whenever you're looking at what host agency you want to possibly partner with. Support and resources are another thing that you really have to consider. Obviously, value alignment, that's a little bit of a gray area when it comes to support, but I think whenever you feel like you fit in well with the network, you're probably going to feel more supported for sure. Tools and technology, what kind of booking platforms do you have access to? CRM, itinerary builder, do you have some way to look over reporting and track your metrics? What's the culture like in the network? These are all the types of questions that you should be asking whenever you're talking to that host agency on the phone. And again, it boils down to what you think your business needs. But when you've completed your research, you should have a better feel, 100%, you should have a better feel for which host feels like the right fit. All right, so earning potential is another thing that you want to consider. We talked about the financial consideration, like what's it going to cost you to work with a host agency, but you have to look at earning potential as well. And this chart, by the way, is just a placeholder. It's not actually charting anything. It's just kind of an example of the way you might track things, like what's your cruise business look like? What's your land business look like? What does your FIT business look like? FIT stands for flexible independent travel or customized travel. What kind of money are you making on your service fees? Like, these are the types of things where when you're looking at a host agency, their relationships are going to be really important. Who do they partner with? Who do you have access to? What do those commission rates look like? Because if you don't have the ability to bring home enough money to make it worth your time, then it's going to be really tough for you to really be able to justify the time spent doing it. All right, so contracts and agreements. This is kind of a point of contention for a lot of people, because I think there's a lot of incorrect information floating around in the industry. And I don't think people are trying to be, I don't think host agencies or partners are trying to be misleading on purpose. I just feel like our industry has experienced an extreme amount of growth in a very short amount of time. And then, because people are scrambling to try to get their resources in order, that sometimes, either steps are skipped or we just haven't done our due diligence. So it's important for you to look over any sort of agreement that the host agency has in place before signing, of course. I'm always shocked, though, at the number of people who, I'll send them an agreement and they'll send it back to me in 5 minutes, and I'm like, whoa, that was a legal document. You've got to read it. You have to make sure that you understand and get your questions answered if you don't. But there's key elements that you want to be looking for in any sort of host agency agreement. What's the duration of the agreement? What are the renewal terms, if any? Do they have an exit strategy that works for you in case you decide that you want to change host agencies down the line? Are there any sort of termination clauses? Are there negotiables in the agreement? What kind of autonomy does your business have in terms of the setup and the way you'll be able to operate on a day-to-day basis? Are there any non-negotiables in the agreement? What terms are you just simply not willing to compromise on? When it comes to non-negotiables, one that we get, or the question that we get a lot is, are we allowed to charge service fees for our time? And if we are, does the host agency take a cut of service fees? Some host agencies do, and some host agencies don't. And so you have to decide, is that something, that you're willing to negotiate on? Maybe they offer amazing educational opportunities down the road, and that's outweighs the cons of having to split your service fees. You have to decide what you're comfortable with. And every host agency is going to do some sort of vetting on the front end or the back end, but most of the time on the front end. So are you confident and comfortable with allowing them to do some sort of a background and or a soft credit check on you? The hard part about host agencies bringing on independent contractors is that, because people are spread out all over the United States, extremely rare that we meet people face to face before we bring them on as a contractor. And what a lot of people don't understand when they come into the industry is that when a host agency shares their agency credentials, we could potentially be liable for anything that goes wrong when someone's using those credentials. And we do unfortunately have a lot of fraud in the travel industry. So we are doing our due diligence, which should make people feel better. Obviously, you want to work in a network that takes security very seriously, not just for your information, but for your client's information as well. So sometimes we ruffle feathers when we tell people that we are going to do a background and a soft credit check on them, but that really should make people feel more comfortable about the host agency that they're talking to. One other thing that I'd like to point out about key elements is that you will sometimes see language in a host agency agreement that indicates that there's non-compete or that you're not able to work under two different IATA credentials. It is very rare that non-compete clauses are actually enforceable. And there is no actual law that states that you cannot work under two different IATA numbers. Even though some terms in a contract may not necessarily be enforceable, I don't think it's smart to enter into an agreement that has language like that, because you want to be sure that it's not something that's going to give you grief later on if you change your mind and decide to move someplace else. No host agency should, and I don't know any that do, want to keep people there if they don't want to be there. That serves no one. So, all right, moving on. Evaluating the culture and fit. This is so important because I think that it's one of those very subjective things that's difficult to really define because it's different for everybody. But it's kind of a feeling that you get whenever you get a host agency on the phone and you have an opportunity to ask your questions. I love it whenever prospects ask me if they can get references from our host agency. I think that's fabulous because that gives us the opportunity to put them in touch with somebody who can really give them their honest opinion about how they feel working within our network and how they feel like their business has grown, what kind of resources that we've provided. So these are things that I love to help people, make contact with existing advisors within our network. But these are all there's certainly a whole lot more that could have been added to this slide. But just being able to understand how well you feel like the overall culture of the network will work for you is important. We have a mentality at Uniglobe of, a rising tide lifts all boats. And, that's an old cliche, I know, but it really is true in our network. We try and make sure that people are sharing information. Our seasoned professionals that have been around for decades in the industry, they're very generous with their time and their expertise. And our newer people that are coming in, they may not necessarily have years of travel industry experience, but they have years of some sort of experience, whether it's traveling themselves or maybe they very adept at technology, or maybe they have a marketing background, and everybody has something valuable to contribute. So, understanding if that's the type of network environment you want to work within, which I think is one of the main benefits of belonging to a network, is that you can all help each other. But, just being able to hop into a private Facebook community, or one of the things that we started doing during COVID was we started doing weekly Zoom happy hours. And now we just do them once a month, and it's all good fun. We just kind of all connect at the end of the day on a Friday and talk about our week and catch up. But during COVID, that was our lifeline because so many of us were struggling, not only to stay in business, but to stay sane, just because there was so many things going on that were so negative. So these are things that you should feel like resonate with you. These are examples of ways that you can feel like a network is supportive and that you feel like the culture is right for you. So the right host fit is going to be equal parts alignment of values, culture, resources, and reinvesting into you and to your business. So, are you given opportunities to, learn about specific products? Are you given opportunities for live events so that you can go and meet with your fellow peers or meet with industry partners? That's a big thing, is being able to build those relationships. Resources such as, the technology. Gosh, there's so much available now that wasn't even available 5 or 6 years ago. And, how is the host agency reinvesting in the business so that you have access to those things and you can learn how to use them? That's a really important way for you to kind of give that big picture overview of, are all of these things in place? So to recap some key points here, it's important for you to understand the host agency business model, what it is and what it isn't, why you should talk to more than one host agency, assessing your business needs, not just for now, but maybe, 6 months from now or a year from now, checking reputable sources, checking your financials, understanding what support and resources that you might need, what kind of earning potential do you have available to you, and then, what kind of terms are in the agreement or the contract that you might have to, either agree to or not, sign or not. And that's something that I think a lot of people don't really, those contract terms, it still blows my mind how many people don't read them, but you absolutely should. So I went a little bit fast, and I do apologize, Joni, for going a little too fast, but at least I have some additional information about Uniglobe and who we are. And then I want to give probably a little extra time for the Q&A, because it sounded like we had a lot of people that were actually on the webinar. So a little bit about Uniglobe.
You
I'm
go
sorry,
ahead and do that, and then we'll go into, we just have a few questions, not too many, but hopefully people will type them in while you're reading this.
Yeah, no worries. So a little bit about Uniglobe Travel Center. We've been in business since 1996. We are a lean and mean team. We have about 15 staff members, and between all of us, we have really more like 250 years of combined travel experience. What's unique about Uniglobe is nearly every single person on our staff has served in the role of a travel advisor. So we understand the day-to-day, we understand the pain points, and it gives us a unique opportunity to be able to serve travel advisors in a language that they really understand, and we understand. So, we're a host only, which means that we don't sell travel. Uniglobe does not sell travel. So our staff is completely dedicated to supporting our advisors. We also make sure that we're mindful of our numbers. It is absolutely by design that we are not the biggest host agency. We're much more focused on quality. So, some host agencies might bring on hundreds a month. Some might bring on 1,000 or more a month. We bring on maybe 6 to 8 per month. So it's a much more refined process that we use with our advisors, but it has served us very, very well. Last year was our top, sales of all. Since we started in business, we closed a little over 132 million last year. So we have a very productive network. and our advisors, have the opportunity to run their businesses the way they want to, while still reaping the benefits of the relationships and the resources that we've built over the years. So,
All right, cool. That's
thank
great.
you. Yeah.
I do have one question that kind of goes along with that a little bit, so I'm going to ask this one first here. She would like a little more direction on determining entrepreneur versus casual enthusiast, maybe the pros and cons of each. That's a good question.
It is a good question. And I think it's important to dive into that because, if you've never owned a business before, I'll use this quote that I hear from people sometimes. This just seems like a really fun job. And I'm not going to say that it's not fun. It's a very rewarding career, but it's a lot of work too. And so sometimes when people haven't owned their own business, they don't realize what needs to take place on a day to day. When you're the boss, the buck stops with you always. So you have to be on top of the financials and the workflows and your taxes. And are you going to have employees? I mean, even just bringing on sub agents is something that a lot of people don't realize. Now you're going to have to provide a 1099 to that person, and you're going to have to be responsible for every action that they take. So, some people are better suited to be an employee or a sub agent, and there's nothing wrong with that because, if I was getting close to retirement, which I'm not, but I wish I were, but I'm not. If I were getting close to retirement and I wanted to start a business in my retirement years, I would probably be, this is just me personally, a little reluctant to take on starting a whole new business. If it were me, I would probably want to just kind of do it in my free time, in my spare time, and do it as much or as little as I want to, be happy with the volume that I'm comfortable with. But when you're starting as a business owner, you're starting an actual business. If you're ever going to do it full time, you have to make enough income for it to make sense. Realistically, most advisors are only bringing home about 10 to 12% of their actual gross sales in income. And that's, of course, after taxes and fees and things like that. Now, if they're charging service fees for their time, obviously that can go up. And that's not a hard, fast number, of course, that's an average. But when you think about it, you have to be aiming pretty high if you're going to make enough money to replace your current full-time income. So that's why I tell people, you have to decide, am I all in? Am I starting this business and I'm going to grow? Or do I just want to do this because I enjoy it and, I want to make a little money on the side? Either way is fine, but you have to be realistic with yourself. I hope that answered the question.
I think that's a great answer. Absolutely fantastic. Great answer. So this is an interesting question as well, and I'm not exactly sure if there's specifics to it, so I'm just going to read what they wrote. What are notable signs of a fraudulent travel agency? So I'm assuming they mean a host agency, not a independent agency that works through a host, is my guess.
Mm-hmm. Well, the first thing I would do is I would go to the PATH website, which is just PATH, the number 4 hosts, plural. So PATH, the number 4 HOSTS.com. And the PATH organization, like I said, it was established to help keep the original intent of the host agency business model pure, so to speak. Because there's been a lot of different interpretations of host agencies. And so now you'll see smaller independent agencies sometimes calling themselves hosts, which isn't illegal, but I think you should go into a situation with your eyes wide open. Are you building your own business or are you helping somebody else build theirs? And neither way is wrong or right. It's just whatever is what your intent is. And it'd be hard. I mean, if they're not on that list, that doesn't mean that they're fraudulent, but host agencies have to meet pretty strict requirements to be part of PATH. I would go to the Better Business Bureau, maybe try and, gosh, I mean, that's a really tough one if they're fraudulent. You can look up online reviews, which are, I know, subjective, but you can also check resources like Find a Host Travel Agency. You know, most host agencies are going to have a profile on Find a Host. And that, I guess, Joni, you might be able to answer the question how you guys determine which host agencies you're going to feature on your website.
Exactly. That's a great way to answer that one. Yeah, we're very cautious about who we post on our site. There are certain things that we require from them. I won't go into all of it, but needless to say, you know, we've been in this industry. Our family has been in this industry for so many years. It's frightening when I think about how many years. But we know, you know, we've been in the host agency market such a long time. We know the signs, and we're very cautious. As an example, we want to work with a host agency that we won't work with a host agency that provides any kind of an ID card per se, or something, or touts the fact that people are going to travel for free or travel into, you know, super cheap because they're joining their host agency. We're really, really clear on that. So there are certain things that we kind of look for. And another thing we look for is the educational platform that's being provided by a host agency. Is there a good, strong educational proponent to what they're offering? Do they do a lot of webinars? Do they do a lot of training, so that they can continue to grow the agents that work with them? So there's a lot of different things. And if anybody has questions about that, they can certainly go to our channels, go to findahosttravelency.com, and then we have a bazillion different training modules that we have about what to look for in a host, what not to look for in a host agency. So that might help anybody on here that has, you know, additional questions to that. Let's see, I've got another question for you here. Where are you located, and are you part of a consortium?
So Uniglobe Travel Center is located outside of or inside of Newport Beach. I physically am located in Apex, North Carolina, in case that matters. And yes, Uniglobe is part of a consortia. We belong to Virtuoso, which we have been with them for now about 3.5 years. We've been very, very happy working with Virtuoso. They're a wonderful network of supplier partners and other agencies. They offer a ton of educational support, marketing support, sales support, and they have a stellar reputation as well. So that's who we are.
I'm going to just piggyback onto that. For those of you in the audience that aren't familiar with the various consortia that are out there, one of the hardest consortia to be a part of is Virtuoso. I mean, talk about things and hoops you have to climb through to be a part of them. They are very picky about who they choose. So when you see a host agency that says they're a member of Virtuoso, that in itself is a really, really good sign. So just sharing that with folks. They're not an easy one to be a part of. So, you know, I know that you guys moved over to them a few years ago, and I really applaud your team on making that choice. They're an amazing, and they really are very focused. A lot of their focus, not all, but a lot of it is on luxury travel. And a lot of benefits for people that do sell the higher end travel. So if you are
Right.
an agent looking to do that, they're a perfect partner in that regard.
They are. And what I love about Virtuoso, besides the fact that they're a family run business, they look at luxury as a feeling, not just as a price tag. Even your mid-market and your budget clients want to be treated like VIPs. Otherwise, they would book the travel themselves, right? They don't need us for that. They can book travel themselves online anytime they want to. So, but Virtuoso does have quite a lineup of supplier partners within the network, nearly 2,400 to choose from. And there are some mid-market and premium products in there. Delta Vacations is a preferred supplier with Virtuoso. G Adventures has such a broad range of products. Your clients can backpack and stay in hostels with G Adventures, or they can, you know, go into a 5-star luxury resort as well. So they have quite a bit to offer. And that doesn't mean that your client has to necessarily spend 100K or more on a vacation to reap the benefits of it.
Good point. Yes, absolutely. All right. So I think if anybody doesn't have any more questions, I think we've pretty much answered the majority of questions. Oh, wait, hold on one second. I got another one. Just a second, just
Sure.
popped in here. Let me read this one. Well, this is a good question. So, how can a person communicate with or give feedback to a host agency if they feel unsatisfied with their services? I think we could both answer this one. I'll let you take it first, though.
Absolutely. Well, I can tell you how we would handle it. This is one of the reasons why we don't want to be the biggest host agency. We know that we can't serve everybody around the clock. I mean, we just can't. So we hover between 550 and 600 advisors. That means you can always get in touch with a human being if you need something. Usually, people are going to either reach out to our VP, Betsy Geiser, or myself. And we're always happy to talk with people. We also have a private Facebook community where our advisors can certainly air their grievances if they like. We don't, you know, we're not thought police. We don't tell people what they can and can't say in there. But you could go to places like Find a Host Travel Agency and leave reviews if you wanted to. We take those things very seriously, and you should be able to talk to somebody if you're not happy with your host agency. It's nothing personal. If you're not getting what you need, we can't fix it if we don't know what's wrong. And that's how a host agency should, approach it. But hopefully that question wasn't born from a negative experience, I hope.
No, I'm sure not. I think they're just asking, and that's a good question because it is something, you get kind of nervous about asking, like
Sure.
for help on something where you feel like you're not getting what you're supposed to get, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
just being honest, and
Yes.
if you can't talk to your host, folks, that's a problem. You should be able
Yeah.
to reach out to them. I mean, if you're, like, what do they call them, a Karen, when somebody complains all the time or something like that? I don't know. If you're one of those, whatever that means, then that's a whole other thing. If you're abusing the situation in that regard, but if you have, honest concerns and things you need help with, you should be able to reach somebody easily and have somebody to talk to. So that would be one of the things I would look for when I was shopping for my host agency.
Right.
All right. So
And
can a fee for
feedback.
a host agency? Oh, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I just want to add one other thing. Feedback, the way we see it anyway, whether it's positive or negative, that's always an opportunity. It's an opportunity for us to learn and improve. So we say bring it on.
I agree. I agree. Okay, I think we pretty much got it. Now, we are going to be giving away a gift card today to one lucky attendee who listened attentively to what you've shared with us today, April. So I'm going to ask you, April, between 1 and 20, what is your lucky number?
Oh, gosh. My lucky
Yeah,
number
I didn't tell you ahead of
is,
time you were going to have to do
I
this.
know you didn't tell me that. I'm going to say 4 because that's how many people I have in my family.
Oh, well, that's cool. That's a good reason. Okay, that's a good one. All right, so we are going to award a gift card to the fourth person who correctly answers the question by putting the answer to the question in the questions area that you've been utilizing for those of you who have on the right hand side of your screen. So you'll see questions over there. You open that up, you simply type that answer in. So in a couple seconds, I will go ahead and ask that question, and then hurry up and we'll pick the fourth correct answer. Okay, the question is, should you take time to speak with multiple hosts? And if so, how many? All right, we have a winner. All right. The answer to the question is 3. And of course, you can talk to more, but the minimum she mentioned was 3. And the winner to this is Caroline Hines. Congratulations, Caroline. You're going to receive an Amazon gift card, courtesy of Travel Professional News. And I will be sending that to you in just a little while online. So just be watching for that message to come through for you. So congratulations to you. April, thank you so much. And I so appreciate everything that you've shared. Great information. I love the fact that you weren't hard selling your host agency, which I personally think is a great host agency, but the fact that you were really giving people information to help them make the best decision for their independent business. And I really applaud you for doing that today. I thank you very much for that. And I
Of
really do. I
course.
really appreciate that. It's sometimes it goes the other way when we do webinars, and I'm just really impressed that you took it in this direction. So thank you for that. Everybody who's on today, thank you for being here. Appreciate it so much, and we will look forward to seeing you next time. We did record this, so you will be able to watch the recording. You'll get a link to that probably in about 24 hours, and so you can go ahead and watch it again or save it for future use. So thank you, everybody, and thank you, April.
Thank you so much. I appreciate everything you do for us, Joni. We appreciate your partnership.
As well. All right, everybody. Have a great rest of your day and stay cool out there.
Take care, guys.